You're such an asshole.
Continuing on our Thanksgiving Day GDP production extravaganza, Asshole Consulting open 360 a year, 7 days a week. Thanksgiving and weekends. Dear Cappy, I'm not one of those. Hang on. Laptop. Dear Cappy, I'm not one of those men who's looking for retribution on women. I also don't want to return to the good old days where women were dependent upon men. I am, however, willing to believe that feminism is an accurate representation of women's true feelings towards men. I'm willing to believe women hate men. All right, we got to stop here. Not all women hate men. Please go get my book called A World Without Men. I go through the best I could, assessing where on the spectrum between love/like and actually hate men, what pie chart, how that breaks down. Are there some women that hate men? Yes, if I recall correctly, it's around a third. I think a third of women do hate men. Are most women indifferent to men? Yes, most women are indifferent to men. That does not mean they hate them. Do some women actually like men? Yes, it's a small minority, but they're there. But we can't just say all women hate men. I mean, it's like all people like chocolate ice cream. Not all people like chocolate ice cream. And it's unfair, not accurate, and blah, blah, blah. But I will go along with, I believe feminism is a hatred of men. I absolutely believe that. Back in the day, maybe not. Probably not. You're naive. Oh my God, I'm a feminist. 18-year-old adult child earning her degree in women's studies, or not even that, but sociology. No, it might be a naivete. They just don't see the actions of feminism. But you could get me to, yeah, I will go along with the statement. The majority of feminists, like actual self-proclaimed feminists, the majority do hate men. And feminism as its modern day interpretation, modern day ideology, is a bigoted, misandrist, hating men movement. I absolutely would go along with you, but not all women fall into that category. I believe this for two reasons. The first is because they voted for laws that heavily discriminated against men. Yes, but was it malicious or not? I understand at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they do it maliciously or not. It's the same effect of hatred. I get it. But I would say, all right, do they do that consciously? It's a moot point, I understand. But okay, one, they vote for laws that heavily discriminate against men. The second is because women can't seem to stand it when men are happy. There's more authenticity to that observation. I don't know. Now hold on. Let's break. In fairness, are women upset when men are happy? Right? There's that quote. I think it was Heinlein. Something that, and it was skewed. Nothing offends a liberal white woman more than knowing somewhere out there someone is having a good time. It was a bastardized version of the original quote. Is it because men are happy or someone else is happy? You know, there's that meme with the fat chick posing with the two hot chicks in the nightclub, and she's pissed off and upset because she's the fat chick. And it says, if I'm not happy, no one can be. I don't think that. I think some women are not happy if somebody else is. And it doesn't have to be a male. They're BFF, they're frenemies. If Becky has a hotter husband, I'm pissed. If Amy has a better job, I'm pissed. I don't think, I can see where you're going, but I don't think that is relegate. Their contempt and hatred for people having a good time is not relegated to men. I think it's anyone having a good time. So again, that doesn't mean that's not misandrist. It's just miserable. I don't know. Why are you just trying to be happy? Why don't you just enjoy life? They constantly bitch about passport bros, even though these women say they didn't want these duties anyway. That's true. That is a sign of tyranny and a lack of respecting the individual. They think they're entitled to other people's time. That right there, no, that's a scary and dark, and I'd say evil reality. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Okay, I'm going to do my thing. But you can't do that. You better not. It's like, you don't own me. Do you really think you fucking own me? That's some wicked. That is the epitome of evil. I am just your thing to do what you want. And if you say, I don't want you and I'm going to go do my thing, now you get pissed off. That's hate. That falls squarely into the hate camp. If it was like you said, and that women are indifferent to men, then they shouldn't care what we do. You got a point. Right. I think there are, though, there's all types of women on the love-hate spectrum. Okay. The women who don't let selection bias or self-selection then bias your opinions as well. Women going on the internet, I can't believe men are going overseas and they just want a weak woman. Okay, there's women who selected themselves to mouth off about that. For every one of them, I probably four women who really don't care. Here, and let's not let the internet bias our observations. If you go out into the real world, let's go out into the real world. And I know people will hide their feelings to get along in the real world, so it isn't an accurate representation. But effectively, what you're dealing in the real world is reality. I don't have women coming up and kicking me in my shins. I don't have women actively hating me. Now, they might, behind a veneer of civility and politeness, not do that. At the same time, I don't have women coming up and asking me out or being particularly nice or kind. They're not being rude. I don't have a woman, I don't know, do what a nice thing, whether it was, hi, how you doing, or show interest. Let's just put it that way. The truth is, 95% of your interaction out in public is indifference. You could say that of guys too. They're just indifferent. They don't wish you bad. They don't wish you good. They're just indifferent. Now, when it comes to interactions and all that, again, I'd say it's indifference. Women don't want to go out with you generally. You're going to get shut down the majority of time. Every once in a while, a woman like you, but generally it's indifference. I think that's the plurality or the largest group of women. Where do I go with this? And then they shouldn't care what they right. And it's only a few not a few it is a minority of women who care that men are going overseas or acting on women's declaration that they don't want or need men or are indifferent towards them. I think most women couldn't care less. I honestly think, like, if we polled women, do you care that men are going overseas to find it? And most are like, no, not really. I don't care. Even though I believe women hate men, I don't hate women. In fact, I'm thankful for feminism because they revealed what they truly thought about men. In doing so, they indirectly liberated men. I've heard what men had to do back in the day to support their wives, oftentimes destroying their health and even potentially dying. But as feminism clearly demonstrated, they didn't appreciate these men's sacrifices. So I don't understand why any man would want to go back to those days. Do you think men as a whole will ever realize just how much of a favor feminism has done men? No, I think men are blinded by their genetics and programming to like women, fall in love with women, more so have sex with them. I should lead with that first, let's be honest. I think men's lust for women blinds them to women's general distaste. You would say hate, I'm going to say general indifference or distaste for them. So when you ask, do you think men as a whole will ever realize just how much of a favor feminism has done? No, because in more or less women removing themselves from the table, we could argue that's due to feminism. I would argue it's more the industrial and technological revolutions that allow for white collar work and the creation of the welfare state. But whether it's feminism or women's quote liberation from men, like literally economic liberation, and that they can work jobs that are white collar and support themselves now, men are blinded by their genetics, by their biological programming to go and procreate, have sex, and find women attractive and beautiful, than to what their own eyes and empirical actions of women are screaming at them many times. And that was kind of the entire premise of my book, the Book of Numbers, is that if you look at, let's, boys, listen to me. If we were to step back, every guy's like, how do I get women? How do I get women? How do I get women? Step back. let's go and take a Jane Goodall National Geographic approach to this, where we're going to study the orangutans or the water buffalo or the, the bees or whatever it is, and just look at female behavior empirically. If you look at it, the vast majority of women are not interested in the vast majority of men. If we go back 100, not even more, like 100 years ago, nothing grandiose, because of women's weaker nature, weaker physique, and there was no welfare state, and there was not white collar work. Women needed men to survive. They did. And I've become somewhat very sympathetic to women's plight back in the day, where a lot of times you're stuck with a guy because you need him and you don't like the guy. You don't want to have sex, but he ain't going to work if you don't have sex with them. It's not a great position to be in. Do you want to have sex with a girl you don't want to have sex with? I mean, kind of that kind of, because your survival depended upon it. So I at least try to afford or accommodate women or even feminists that acknowledgement. Now in comes the Industrial Revolution and computers and all this other stuff and air conditioning. And now technology has automated a lot of the manual hard labor. Now women can do a lot of things: accounting, computer programming, surgeon, doctor, whatever. As long as it isn't terribly heavy lifting, they can do it. Then with democracy, now we're going to vote in free shit for us. And what that has done is it has created an opportunity where women no longer need men. And so now you get to see the real and effective demand and interest in men, because they're only going to go out with you if they want to, not because they need to. I think the big mistake or the misleading assumption was that in the 70s or maybe late 60s, all the way up to the 80s, well, just come along and everything will be fine. Nope. And you're finding out the majority of women are not interested in men. They reject you the majority of time. The advent of online dating has shown us a whole other set of data that measures female interest in data or action, or lack of action, I rather should say, of their interest in men. You guys have just got to stop and look at it. You gotta set aside your horniness and your desires and all that, and just look at it. Now, I'm not saying it's all hopeless and you don't try and but when you look at it that way, you see that women never really had all that much interest in men to begin with. I don't believe it's hate. I just think it truly is. The majority of it is indifference. So if we go through your questionnaire, even though I believe women hate men, I don't hate women. In fact, I'm thankful for feminism because they revealed what they truly thought about men. And I would say it's not just feminism, but it's economics, it's technology. In doing so, they indirectly liberated men. I've heard what men had to do back in the day: support, oftentimes destroying their health, even potentially dying while you go off to war. But as feminism clearly demonstrated, they don't appreciate these men's sacrifices. Generally not. No, I would say so. So I don't understand why any man would want to go back to those days. Do you think men as a whole really? Okay. So I don't understand why any man would want to go back to those days, because men don't think of it that way. Men are programmed to want to take care of, support, and defend their woman, their wife, and their family. You're asking for a very frontal cortex, frontal lobe, empirical, unemotional, inhuman observation for men that goes against all their heart, soul, and genetic and biological programming. I don't know, maybe I'm just such a cold, callous asshole I can make that observation, but that's why you say, why any man would want to go back to those days. You don't understand it. It's because they're not thinking about it. They're still, man, it's hard to undo 200,000 years of human evolution, billions of years of evolution. Consider, okay, well, I guess we came from fish or whatever it was. And it's hard. That's why. But I agree with your thesis, because I think it is true. Feminism has liberated men from their traditional roles. And you see that, and I would say not so much feminism. I think that is the ideological, religious interpretation of women's general genetic or disinterest in men, brought about by advances in technology, the Industrial Revolution, and all that. But uh, yes, men's roles, traditional roles to women, have been usurped. They are no longer needed. And whereas men, God, there's a lot of things going on. Do you think men don't realize, don't understand men will go back to those days? Men have been liberated from their traditional obligations to women. Men, for the most part, due to genetic programming and who their actual nature is, still want to go back. They're still willing to do that. However, women, now, are there men who go their own way legitimately and say, fuck this, I'm out? Like they see their parents get divorced or they themselves got divorced. Is the red pill waking up men that they themselves make their own conscientious decision? They look at it and they do the cost benefit analysis. They start using the frontal lobe, say, yeah, boy, I'd really like to bang and nail all these gals, but it's not going to happen. And I got to now move on to a life without women. I got to think about my own. So yes, there's some men who empirically do it, but I would say still to this day, the majority of the reason men are not pursuing women in marriage and all that other stuff. Yes, there's a significant contingent where like they personally don't want to. It's also that women don't have any interest in those men either. And I think what brings it into more of a clear focus and makes men realize that earlier on than in times past is we now have the internet. You have the red pill. We speak very clearly and candidly and bluntly about these such topics of information. That essentially you got two forces competing against men, men's minds, that lead them to not engaging in the traditional roles. You have their genetics where they want to, and then you have empiricism, be it brought to you by Red Pill, what women and feminists say, trial and error, where they fail, like, oh God, I'm never doing that again. Or maybe they just think about it empirically, like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. And that's where a lot of this frustration that men have comes in, is they really, really want to, but like, hey, it ain't your time. And then that results in men making different decisions, which is also along a spectrum. There are true empiricists, MGTOW types, like, yeah, no, fuck it, I'm done. And they're legit. They're not men sent their own way. They have gone their own way. They are not virgin towels, like, nope, fuck this shit, I'm out. And they've gone down one path. There are other men who don't care. No, I still want it. I guess you true believers, your Christian idealistic types, like, no, my God has a girlfriend. But at the end of the day, both because women are not interested in men and no longer have to get with a man, so there's a drop of demand for marriage and commitment and traditionalism on that end, but also men realizing, well, there is a contingent of men like, this shit ain't worth it. I'm not getting married. We see that here. They're dropping out as well. And so now you start to see a decrease in the traditional roles men typically did that you're talking about. So when you ask, I don't understand why any men would want to go back to those days. The true believers still do and are not looking at the empirical evidence or data that's happening. All right. And even if they would like to, a lot of times women are rejecting them. So they're not going to go back to those days, even if they wanted to. And then thirdly, there's a group of men who every guy would like to go back to those days. It's your genetics and your programming, but they are conscious, intelligent, or independent minded enough to disassociate what they want in their genetics from what's happening in reality and start making decisions saying, oh, okay, that's not happening. I better move on or I'm not getting married. And then what you see coming from those three categories is a reality that you are saying, I don't understand why any man would want to go back to those days. Some might want to, but most people are abandoning it in actual actions. Men are not working as much, labor force participation rate. And this is where my second book, in terms of this discussion, comes in, A World Without Men. Men are abandoning society, either because they're consciously choosing to do so, or society, namely women, because men, therefore society would be women, society has rejected them or wants nothing to do with that particular individual man. And so without women, without family, without children's support, without tradition, without a home to maintain, men are, for the most part, not going back to those days, either by choice or by force. So our labor force participation rate is going down, men's. Men aren't working as many hours. The number of hours is going down. Go get it. A world without men. I have it linked below. There's a ton of charts, just a ton of charts. Marriage is going down. I think that's both women not wanting to get married and do the girl boss and the career thing. But then also men are like, nope, I'm not doing it. Saw my old man get divorced, or I've been divorced. I'm not doing it a second time. Consequently, fertility rates are going down. And then other things where, duty to the country. They can't find enough men to join the military. Men getting fat. I mean, what really? I mean, I know people think I'm just being mean. No, both men and women getting fat are a testament to how little effort the other person, how little interest the other person has in the other one. Women got fat because they want to. They'd rather eat and enjoy good food and a life of leisure and not exercise. Most people would anyway, too. It, 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 they've made that choice. Then men, consequently, but also because they're lazy sack of shit. Everyone's a lazy sack of shit. They don't want to. They don't want to get in shape. It's not worth it to us, especially for the risk reward. Like, I gotta do what to maybe get a date? Forget it. No, I'm gonna chill. And on top of it, then I think we have the real effect of feminism is the propaganda people especially see now online, where men are just completely demoralized. They're like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not. I'm just gonna go play video games. And so a lot of men are not going back to that. And I'm not talking the men that are forced to not go back to it because women are rejecting them. That's a significant percentage of the population of men. But then there are the men who consciously are choosing not to go back to that, and they understand why. And maybe some of them have the independent-minded intelligence and thought to make the observation, or have the epiphany you did, and that is, well, wait a minute. Like, actually, in a certain way, I am liberated. Yeah, deep down inside, I'd like to have a nice gal, cute and hot, and kids and all that. But every cloud has its own silver lining. And if you think about it, this is a tremendous silver lining for men. Like, you don't have, I think the data was like, men were working like 3,500 hours a week back in the farming days. You don't have to get drafted and shot now. You don't have to go to the gym. Women even enable it, especially feminists, by creating a welfare state so that you too also don't have to work. Oh my God, I got the autism, the social anxiety disorder. And man, damn it, if there isn't a liberal white woman, they just can't wait to give you a government check with some other person's money. Oh my God, here you go. Yeah. And then there's the meme, men think it's perfectly acceptable to live like this. And it's a picture of a TV and a mattress on the floor. And I've used that many times to make the economic observation. I'm like, normally a guy at that age would have had worked up enough economic production to build a house and have a car. Maybe not the fanciest, but he could have by the age of 25. Now I'm like, how much economic loss has occurred because men just need a television and a mat, or they're living at home. And so that life of leisure, men, it's this, look, nobody wants the cloud, but you have to appreciate the silver lining. There's a silver line that comes with it. The silver lining is you guys don't have to work anywhere near as hard as your fathers or grandfathers, and certainly your great grandfathers did. There was imagine being a World War I guy. You're mostly farmers, so you're doing physical labor. Oh, now we're going to go over here and go shoot some Europeans. Which ones? The bad ones? Oh, the bad ones. Okay. Thank God we weren't going to go over there and shoot the good ones. Wait, didn't Britain try to, what? We're on Britain's team now? Yeah, Europe, they're always switching sides and changing things. Oh, but the French still hate the British. No, they're friends now. Huh? Oh. You're working as a farmer. You go over World War I. Hopefully you don't get mustard gas or shot. And then you come back. And then you work at a factory. Oh, it's a tremendous amount of work. And now you guys, you can get free government drugs and Adderall, and you can do your gummies and your pot, and you don't have to work, and you live at home. You get to eat whatever. You got your video games, and I'm not slamming on that. I'm pointing out what it is. That is an option for a lot of men. Now, I don't think it's true. Well, it isn't true to the nature of men. That's why a lot of people are depressed. But if you can get to the point, say, well, okay, hang on. Okay. Normally, I would have had to bust my ass off, slave away, work 60 hours a week, and provide for Peggy Sue and the kids that I had with her. Well, Peggy Sue told me to go take a hike. There aren't any other Peggy Sues. I'm not a fat piece of shit. I'm a kind of a normal guy. I'm a 6.5. I got an okay job, but I'm still getting shot down by Peggy Sue. Well, fuck. And it's not the world you wanted, but it's the world you got. And I think increasingly more and more men are kind of appreciating their freedom. I think the passport bro movement is one of those things. Like, I still want a woman, but I'm going to make the conscious choice to go overseas because domestically there just aren't marriage-minded women here. But I also see men just shutting down. Why would you work more than you have to? Especially if women are going to vote in social programs and Democrats to pay you not to work. So how many men appreciate that liberty? So I agree with you because it's true. It's not a debate. Yes, feminism, or I would say the Industrial Revolution, and liberating women to make the choices of whether or not they want to be with a guy or not, that has liberated women from men, but it has also liberated men from the labor that would have traditionally been required to maintain a wife and children. How many men realize that? That's the real question. The true believers who sit there sad and depressed, I can't find a girl, blah, 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 but they're not going to work hard at, which at the same time I kind of understand. They're the true believer. They're Jesus. Whoa. Hey, you want to want to see my Christian impersonation? More, please. I mean, those guys, they're the true believers. They're never going to, the Lord will probably good. All right. And I would say they've wrongly assessed the situation. They're operating on hope, which will not deliver results. And they're in for basically wasting their lives. The men equally who just, I just need a girl. I got rent a girl. And sit in forums all day, but don't go to the gym. They're also going to waste their lives. But then there is an awakened group, an empirical group who say, yeah, it sucks. But yeah, I got to get on with I mean, Rich Cooper is probably the epitomal example of that. I'm going to start a company. I'm going to make millions of dollars. I'm going to drive my sports car. I'm going to go do. I like to think I'm a little bit that way, where I go out and I hike, I ride my motorcycle, I stay away from spending money on shit and all those other things. And I think those people, they may not say, yeah, feminism liberated us from all the traditional chores, but they do appreciate the fact of the ease that comes with no longer having to support women or children. They don't have an obligation to society anymore. And I think where they may not say, this is because of the silver lining that I no longer have to help out a woman or raise kids. But I got a lot of clients like, hey, 32 and I'm sitting on $250,000 cash, 400,000 my retirement. Say, oh, what should I do? Well, whatever you want. There is I would even say, for every woe is me, slave to his genetics type of, how do I get the girls type of guy, there's another guy out there who accepted reality, got slapped across the face, started making empirical decisions in the world. No longer, oh, girls. No, me. What am I going to do? That there will be a generation. We're not there yet. Give it 10 years. A generation of millennial men, certainly Zoomers. I see a lot of this with the Zoomer boys. They're going to be retiring at 50. They're going to be like, I got this money. I don't need no shit. I'm a minimalist, or I'm certainly not buying the fancy sports car. I'm going to retire early. And there will always be it would have been nice to have a hot wife and but it's not on the table. It's not on the menu, which is a third book that I don't have linked below. The Menu, Life Without the Opposite Sex, because half of you aren't going to have someone in your life. That's just as per women's desires. Ladies, don't argue with me. You're go take it up with Morgan Stanley and start polling differently, I guess. So I think you have a lot of guys making the best of the situation that they didn't want. The men are very well aware of the freedom that they have. Certainly, certainly these guys like, oh yeah, I can get my motorcycle, I can do this, I can do that. They get to sleep. Oh man, sleep alone is a blessing. Not worrying about food. I mean, I guess I'm the epitomal definition of that. Man, I love not worrying about food. Have you ever have you ever tried not worrying about food? Isn't it nice not worrying about food? Not worrying about rent? Not worrying about the heat bill? It's so nice having money and being able to support yourself with no real risks of, I mean, there's always a risk, but not living paycheck to paycheck. It's wonderful. And I think men are unconsciously enjoying that silver lining without conscientiously knowing, although an increasing amount is. So when you ask, I don't understand why any man would want to go back to those days. It's because they're programmed to, their genetics compel them to. Do you think men as a whole will ever realize just how much of a favor feminism has done for them? I don't think as a whole, I would say at least half of the men are going to understandably want women in their lives because it's how it's been forever. But I think the other a significant percent, proud half, will realize, yeah, okay, that's the way that one went. Many thanks to the internet and people offering different and many thanks to women and their behaviors, both online and in person, which makes it abundantly clear if we step back and put on our National Geographic glasses, like, okay, loud and clear, we got it. We'll be seeing you later. So there you go. All right. Link below. A World Without Men, an analysis of an all-female economy. Please read that book for the one chapter alone that goes over the love-hate spectrum distribution of women's opinion of men in America. In America. And then also I would get the book of numbers, analyzing the ROI in the pursuit of women, so you understand, man, just how and I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just reporting the numbers. There's a lot of polling data. There's a lot of research. We got the internet now. Guys, just please look at the numbers. Put on your National Geographic glasses and look and say, oh, okay. And you know what? Then you'll stop. Not only will you stop bothering women that really probably don't have an interest in you, you're going to liberate yourself a lot of time, money, and frustration, right? Again, not saying don't ask out girls, but just, have the expectation. It's just the majority of women are not interested in you. And if you do want to find a gal, it takes a lot of asking girls out, a lot of dates. It takes work. Yes, you could find one. It's statistically hard, but you could find one. But just understand, like, no, the rejection, nothing wrong with you, man. It's just how they are. Unless you're a fat pig, then there's something wrong with you. And that you can find in the book of numbers, analyzing the ROI in the pursuit of women. Let's go to the super chats. JJJS, 279 Canadian. Lots of DEI firefighters and can't pass fitness. Oh my God. I saw the volunteer fire department over in Hermosa. I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? Looking at these kids, I'm like, you're gonna pull my ass from a burning building, are you now? Fuck. Yeah, I mean, really, there's another. I get JJ bring up another good point. What about fire and rescue and the cops, the blue line, the red line? Where you need men, they can't find masculine men to field it. That's another. They can't find. God, you couldn't get the police department to give you a fart if you want to go work from back in the olden days. And now, oh hey, I'm literally more than twice the age I was when I was kicking around becoming a cop. And you couldn't, not to save your life. Now, hey, you're in shape. Yeah, I am. You want to become a cop? Kinda, not particularly. Well, we're hiring. What happened to you need a triple doctorate and you got to pass the what? Now, well, Oh, wait a minute. You told men they weren't needed, gave them a bunch of drugs, haven't been raised by single mothers, and then all the women were told to tell men that they hated them and didn't need them anymore. And now men took that to heart and they ain't staying in shape and they ain't applying for the police department because they're not needed anymore. Now you have a little bit of an employer. Well, keep raising that age to the military. I noticed that. I was like, oh, you got to raise it to 50? I might just join part-time. Ken Rose, $5. Thank you, Ken. Andy Garcia. Oh no, you just kind of look like Andy Garcia. $10, dude. I was watching Better Bachelor's vid about red pill in China. I literally thought, wow, feminism truly liberated men. Every married guy I know is miserable. Oh, that's another thing. Yeah, you're right. I'm just starting. I think that's just the nature of marriage. Yeah, when you look at married men, it's not. I mean, I understand it's the internet, but there's a lot of these guys, they'll be posting their passport wife or whatever. And here's this average looking white dude or American dude. And then there's this cute little Asian thing, and they're not drop dead gorgeous models, but I'm looking at them like they're both smiling. She's happy that she's got this man to take care of her, and he's happy he's got a nice sweet gal by him. I'm like, oh. But then you look at married man American life, like, oh, fuck. Hey, it is so rare to see happily married couple that when you get the fucking thing, like, and then I've known guys who've gotten divorced 3 times. I'm like, fuck. And they're like, I gotta find a girl. I'm like, have you learned one fucking thing, man? One fucking thing. I got a dating app. Like, oh fuck, just go overseas. I mean, if you're gonna do it, go overseas at that age. I'm single and happiest ever. Yeah, it. I don't think it was ever the way we're till happily. They lived happily ever after. It really is contingent on girls. You girls have to like your guy, which I understand. You have to like the guy. He goes, well, I understand you don't like most men. It's and that's not a choice. I think women are just not impressed by the vast majority of men. But there ain't going to be no happy marriages until women are, you're right. You're the greatest guy. Blah, 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 blah. It'll all work itself out in the end. Don't worry, guys. It'll all work itself out in the end. And until it does, I would implore you men, especially you young men, to please go read the Book of Numbers and A World Without Men so you understand just how little general interest women have in you and what is required on your part to get the women you would like you to be interested in you. Just how much work you have to do, which is a perpetually moving target nowadays. There you go. All right. Questions, answers, assholeconsulting.com. See you guys later. Toodles.